So we are recording. And Kathleen, once again, welcome. Tell us about Daughter for Hire.
Oh, I'd love to. Thanks so much for having me. Daughter for Hire just celebrated our 10th year anniversary this year. So without going into too much detail, this was kind of the brainchild of my mother, who is gone now. I was in the midst of changing jobs and had a little bit of, I don't know, soul searching that went on because I've always been in sales, finance, banking, that kind of thing. And I wanted to do something for someone else besides myself, or a big bank or a conglomerate or whatnot. I wanted to help people kind of at the grassroots level. So I ended up working with a couple of seniors that I knew that needed help. Either they needed help getting to medical appointments, needed help with grocery shopping, meal preparation, or even just companionship. And I loved it. So Larry knew me in my other life where it was go, go, go. And I would make a cup of coffee nervous because I was always on the go. Well, that has all changed, and I'm a lot calmer these days. Talk to my husband, he'll be the first one to tell you I was one way pre-2012 and another way after. And I can attribute that to, and I'm sure you can all appreciate this, doing work that you feel really good about, where you're not working for a paycheck, you're working for people. And that's what I've always done. And I was blessed because I alone took care of a couple of people. And I've got more stories that I can tell you a little bit later. But it got so busy, I had to bring people on. And it just continually got more and more busy. And what that told me was there is such a need for help for senior citizens in our community. So I live in Whitesboro, worked out of my home, for maybe the first 2 years. And now we have an office in Clinton. We're right on William Street in Clinton. We're behind the pink door. And we've also got an office in the Capital District in Latham. But what we do is really simple. And I say it's simple from our perspective, but from a client's perspective, any little bit that we do can be enough to help someone safely stay in their own home. And that's not lost on us. We have got 65 caregivers between the Mohawk Valley and the Capital District, and we'll do things like taking clients to their medical appointments. We'll sit in, we'll take notes. We can converse with the family afterwards as long as we're given permission. We bake with our clients. We decorate Christmas trees with our clients. We do fun things. We do some not so fun things like cleaning their homes or just going through the refrigerator to get rid of any expired food. But I think really the most meaningful thing that we do is when people get a little bit older and either they've got chronic illness, Alzheimer's, dementia, physical illness, they're getting to a certain age, and I'm really generalizing, where maybe they've lost a lot of their friends. Our average age of our clients is probably 75-ish. And unfortunately, their world shrinks. They're not able to drive in many cases. A lot of their family and friends have passed on. So we've got a lot of loneliness that we're working with. So we've got just all the normal things we do, taking people to medical appointments and whatnot. But we've also got the other end that I think you would probably appreciate as well, where we're trying to help people not only stay in their own home, but stay there safely and keep in touch with the outside world, not backed into a corner where they can't do this or they can't do that. We do things as simple as taking someone to church on Sunday. We do things in the fall, such as going for a long ride to look at the changing leaves. We've got clients that we take to Silver Sneakers. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. So we'll take our clients, and I just heard a story this morning. One of our caregivers is taking one of our clients, and the client, she is 85 maybe. To look at her, you'd think she's 65. Well, the caregiver's not doing so well in Silver Sneakers. The caregiver can't keep up with the client, but the client loves to go. So we make sure we get the client to Silver Sneakers as long as, as often as she wants to go. We take people out to lunch. We have 2 clients from a local memory care facility, and the man, I mean, this is a little bit of an interesting story. The gentleman has escaped a couple of times because he was living a life where he didn't believe that he needed to be there. And he's got enough memory left that he remembers doing things that he really enjoyed doing. And so he escaped once and went to a restaurant because he was sick of the food there. Well, there are 2 people at this memory care facility who met through us because their families came to us. They wanted to get out. They have got Alzheimer's and dementia, one for each of the clients, but they're well enough that they can go out, and the 3 of them have a wonderful time. They've come into our office unannounced and will just, kind of go through the door and say, the 3 musketeers are here. And they travel in a little pack, but we've given, and when I say we, trust me, I don't mean me. Our caregiver, our ability to be involved in these people's lives, we've given them kind of a new level of acceptance for where they're living right now, because we're open to anything. I mean, we do crafts. We can bring the clients to Munson Williams, to, I know when I had a client a few years ago, we used to go to MVILR at SUNY Poly. There are so many things that people love to do, and I understand this, and I'm sure you do too. I've had 2 hip replacements, one that went well, one that didn't go well. And I'm a normally very upbeat person. I got to the point where, I'm wondering, am I ever going to get better? Am I ever going to get better? And I'm sure I wasn't a delight to live with at that point. We're responsible as human beings working for this company to help people get from here to there. We're not doctors, we're not nurses, we're just caring people. And if somebody can take their walker and go around the house and then sit down and have a homemade cookie or something like that, we're a bright spot in somebody's day. So we do all the things that are necessary for our clients to stay in their own homes safely, things that have to be done, coordinating medical appointments, picking up prescriptions, all those other things that I mentioned. But the things that are really kind of the icing on the cake would be doing the fun things where we're connecting with people. So if they have lost friends and family, their world has shrunk, we're getting them back out again. We can come up with ideas, we listen, we talk. And I should probably tell you, we don't hire run-of-the-mill people. I'm sure we'd hire every single one of you, but the criteria for hiring people, because anybody and everybody thinks they can do this kind of work. Not so. This is way more than collecting a paycheck. This is someone that's got it in their heart that they want to help other people. They're caring, they're patient, they're compassionate, and they understand that they can do a little bit that's going to help somebody in a big way. So those are the kind of people we hire. And our criteria is really simple. We hire people that we would allow to take care of our own mothers and fathers and family members. If it's not an absolute 100%, we don't hire the person. And I know everybody knows what the employment market is like these days. It is so hard to find people. And we pay, and I don't mind telling you this, we pay anywhere on the low end, $15 an hour to $17 an hour. We are paying more than, and I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but we're paying more than a lot of organizations like us because we want people to work for us. We want the right people to work for us so that we can keep doing what we're doing. I'm going to take a breath and maybe you can tell me, what would you like to know more about that I didn't touch upon?
Kathleen, are the services able to be paid for by either Medicare or Medicaid?
Unfortunately, they are not.
Okay.
But there are organizations that can help. And one of them is the Office for the Aging.
Okay.
So that would always be one of the first places that if someone had any difficulty paying at all, I would point them in that direction. If there's any Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, MS, there are ways to have the services paid for by those organizations. So one of the things that we're able to do, and we do a good job at, is if someone needs more help than we can give them, for example, we don't just say, no, sorry, we can't help you. We do the legwork. We try and find out, okay, who can help them? And when people come to us and they're having a hard time financially, we'll put the word out. I mean, we think nothing of picking up the phone and calling the Office for the Aging and just trying to make a little bit of a transitional phone call so that it's not so hard for the individual. But we have clients that are receiving grants from the MS Society. I mentioned the Alzheimer's Association. And the Alzheimer's Association actually works hand in glove with the Office for the Aging in Oneida. No, it's not Oneida. It's Whitesboro, not Whitesboro, Whitestown, maybe up by the airport.
Yeah.
Gee, I've lived
Whitestown.
here for almost
Mhm.
30 years and I can't remember the cities. So we try and help. So if someone does call us, if they're looking for more service than we can offer, we'll point them in the right direction. If we can help them, we'll do whatever we can do to help.
How far west do you go? You met where the church I have is in Oneida. Do you go that far?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yep, we've got at least 2 caregivers out that way.
Okay.
So yes, we certainly do. So in terms of what our Mohawk Valley borders are, we go to like the Barneveld area, Remsen, Trenton Falls, all that area. To the east, we go as far as Little Falls. To the south, we dabble in Madison County. If we have a client, we work pretty hard to find a caregiver for them. And then let's see, to the west, we go as far as really kind of Oneida, Canastota,
Okay.
those areas. We do the majority of our work right in Oneida County.
Okay.
But again, if it's outside of our borders, we'll do whatever we can. I just referred someone to a friend who runs a similar business in Syracuse, and she was able to help them. They're just a little too far west for us.
Thank you.
Sure.
Kathleen, what is the intake process like? Are there certain benchmark requirements that you need to see, or what would that process look like?
Okay, so our intake we call a consultation. So we'll talk to someone over the phone. Very often, we're hearing from a friend or a family member, probably 65% of the time, and the other 35%, we're going to talk to the client directly because they call us. We don't have a problem, once we meet the client. It's a scary thing to have somebody come into your home. And so they're very apprehensive. So we do in-person consultations. From our standpoint, we need to evaluate how someone is doing. Are they able to move around? Is their home safe for them? So we're going to eyeball that. Just to make sure that there's not trip hazards all over, and that they've got the ability to have fresh food and water and all of that kind of thing. And we talk to them to try and understand from their perspective, what do they feel they need? What they feel they need and what a family member feels that they need are not always the same, but it's that bit in the middle, where those two circles intersect. That's where we start. But if somebody tells us we're hiring you for XYZ, I all but guarantee you in 2 weeks, we're doing ABC and something else as well. Things become apparent as we get to know our clients better. And it's got to go that way because we're people dealing with people, and it doesn't do anybody any good for us to come in and kind of barge our way in and say, well, you need this and you need that. We've got to meet them where they are so that we can help them with something small and gain their trust. And, it can expand from there if it needs to. Just as an example, we find out quite often that people aren't taking their medication correctly. I hope I mentioned we don't provide any medical service, but we can oversee a client taking their medications. So we can attest to the fact that they took all their morning medications while we're there. And I mean, it happens to me too. So I'm 62. So I understand where they're coming from, where there are days where I've taken my pills and then I kind of look at myself in the mirror and I think, did I take those this morning? Which is why I've moved on to the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So we're able to help clients with that. And when we see things that aren't going well, for example, someone who's not taking their medication, but we're only with them once a week, there are automated pill dispensers that work with lights that say, okay, time to take your medication. If someone hasn't opened that little door and taken the medication out, an automatic phone call goes from the company to their loved one to say, well, they have not taken their medication today. We can make phone calls to check on people and to see if they've taken it. I mean, we don't have eyes on the individual, but in so many cases, we work in conjunction with family and friends.
Awesome.
I wanted to say thank you, first off, for your holy work that you are doing. Really,
Thank
it is
you.
such a wonderful thing. We have so many older folks in our congregation. One in particular who was on getting help from the Office of Aging, but they've had so many cutbacks. So
Yeah.
now she doesn't have people to help her, like with grocery shopping, or she can't really leave her house too often. So something like this would be a real help. Often we have people who need rides to the doctors because they have a doctor appointment and somebody here might not be available at that time.
Right.
Another person who her family kind of convinced her to go to Syracuse to stay at a place, and now they've kind of left her. She has a home here. She'd really love to be in her home, but trying to find people that will help her in her house has been a real struggle. So
Right.
this may be a great option for some of these folks. Do you have a set price for each person, or does it go depending on the situation?
So we charge an hourly rate, and our hourly rate is $33 an hour. The only
Okay.
thing that would differ from that is if we do driving for a client, there's a mileage charge, but I mean, it's very
Mhm.
reasonable.
Okay.
And that's for the use of the caregiver's car. So we reimburse the caregiver for their mileage.
Mhm.
Which is another really good point. We have got insurance on anything that you could imagine. So our caregivers are insured to be driving our clients, to medical appointments, grocery store, whatnot.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
You have fellow organizations in other areas of the state?
We
Other
do. We've got
parts?
another office in the Capital District, so our office is in Latham.
Oh, okay.
There
Okay,
are
what-
other companies, though, that are in different areas of the state.
That are different areas, okay.
Yeah. If you've got questions about any particular area, I might know off the top of my
Yeah,
head.
I'm speaking to you from the Northern Catskills in a very isolated area known as the Mountaintop, near Hunter Ski Mountain.
Yes,
And my mother-in-law is turning 90 and living alone, and there just aren't any services in this area. And your kind of caretaking services is just the kind of thing we might be looking for. And so that was where the question came from.
do you have, which county is that area in?
Green
Okay,
County.
okay. Have you contacted the Office for the Aging in Greene County?
No, we haven't done any of that. It was just, it just kind of came to me, that caretaking could be something that we
Yeah.
could use. Yeah.
Because a call to them would
Yeah.
be opening yourself up to recommendations. So they're dealing
Yeah.
with companies like mine, individuals that provide this service,
Yeah.
which may, in an area like Greene County, may occur more than you might see companies like ours, because it's
Right.
not, it's more sparsely populated, I believe.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
Thanks for
they
that.
could refer you very
Yeah.
easily.
Kathleen, could you talk just a little bit about how you interface with the families of the people that you're caring?
Sure. Okay, so there are a couple of different ways. I mentioned that it's usually the families that will end up coming to us just even to get information or to find out how do we even operate. When we meet with the client for the first time, we love it if a family member could be there. We get additional insight into what the person might need or want, how they're living, and what other kind of support they have in their lives. Once we start working with a client, with the client's permission, we can keep the family member in the loop with our system. So we've got, it's called a CRM, and it's a relationship management system that has got everything for us, so that we've got one place where we've got all of our client data, not to mention all the other data that we hold. We've got a family room, and it's a portal where we can share information automatically with the family every single day that we're with that client. So they can log in, they can read all of the caregiver's notes, they can call us and say, I see that my mother didn't eat very well today, and up until the time the caregiver got there, she hadn't had any water for the day. Something as simple as that. They could call into the office after that. We could talk about it. we get word to the caregiver and say, you know, really make sure you focus on water. She's, for whatever reason, she's not drinking much lately. You know, could you try and make sure that she has a couple glasses of water every day? And there are things that we can talk to the family about just to keep them up to speed, but it's such a two-way street. We regularly call our clients, we keep the families up to date, but they call us too, the clients and the families. And we like that. We never know the full picture from what we see, so it's always good to hear from someone else.
I can imagine there's a lot of information that needs to go back and forth.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. We're their eyes and ears, especially in our area. There are so many children that have moved to other, you know, cities, towns, states, and we are their eyes and ears for their parents here. And so we take that very seriously. And in those instances, I think we do even more to make sure that they're up to speed with what's going on with their loved one.
can you talk briefly about privacy issues? I guess you're probably not bound by HIPAA regulations, but I'm sure you encounter privacy issues.
Oh, we absolutely do. So think of the number of moving parts we have. So we've got our office staff. In each office, we've got two individuals. We've got a director and we've got an administrative person. We've got 65 caregivers out in the field, and the caregivers are in the privacy of someone else's home. Everything that happens there is relayed to us. So, not everything, but the important things are relayed to us. So the caregiver knows it, the director knows it, the admin knows it, I know it, my partner Denise knows it. We're governed by our own internal policies and procedures. We've got these in place. They started out to be, I think, 11 pages. And over the past 10 years, it's expanded to 40 some odd pages, but it's every rule you could imagine that has to deal with taking care of clients, respecting them, respecting their privacy. You know, so much so we will tell caregivers, you're never allowed to take a picture of a client or the inside of their home. You are not allowed to be on your phone when you're in a client's home. Your attention is for that client. Anything you've learned, because they are certainly going to hear things that maybe they shouldn't hear in the home. They are not allowed to repeat that. And we're really, I guess we put a really strong emphasis on that, because all we've got as a company is our reputation. And I mean, knock on wood, we've got no dings on it yet. After 10 years, we've always done the right thing. We haven't had any hiccups or bumps in the road, and we want to keep it that way. And it's easy enough by having meetings with our caregivers, by reinforcing the policies and procedures, and having them sign off on the policies and procedures at least once a year, usually 2 or 3 times. But HIPAA, yes, you're right, Larry. We're not governed by it, but I just think human decency governs in this case, that we just, you know, respect privacy.
Well, this has been very rich, Kathleen. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank
Oh,
you.
I enjoyed it.
Other
Thank you.
questions?
Yeah, could you repeat the name of the organization again? I'm sorry about
Sure.
that.
It's called Daughter for Hire.
Daughter for Hire.
And yeah,
That's great.
would you like a phone number just to hold on to?
Yeah, that'd be great.
And maybe I can reach out to Larry afterwards. If I can get your mailing addresses, I can send you out some rack cards that
Oh,
have
thank
got
you.
just the basic information on them. But our office number in Clinton is area code 315 725-2955.
Do you have an email address, Kathleen?
Sure. Do you want mine or the general email address?
The general's fine.
Okay, info, so INFO at daughter hyphen for hyphen hire.com.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
315-725-2955. Is
Yes.
that right? Okay.
And Gabrielle should probably answer the phone. It's either Gabrielle or Abby. Either one of them could help you, though.
Superb. Thank you again, Kathleen. And I want to echo Edwina's comment. This is holy work that you're doing here.
You know what the greatest part of it is? I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's the perfect life work that you really enjoy and know that you're helping somebody, which,
Yeah.
you all do as well.
Well, let's end with a blessing. This is a poem by Robert Weston that seems fairly appropriate to the discussion today. Beautiful are the youth whose rich emotions flash and burn, whose lithe bodies filled with energy and grace sway in their happy dance of life. And beautiful likewise are the mature, who have learned compassion and patience, charity and wisdom, though they be rarer far than beautiful youth. But most beautiful and most rare is a gracious old age, which has drawn from life the skill to take its varied strands, the harsh advance of age, the pang of grief, the passing of dear friends, the loss of strength, and with fresh insight weave them into a rich and gracious pattern all its own. This is the greatest skill of all, to take the bitter with the sweet and make it beautiful, to take the whole of life in all its moods, its strengths and weaknesses, and of the whole make one great and celestial harmony.
That was beautiful.
Well,
So
friends, the Lord be with
perfect.
you.
And also with
Thank you,
you.
Larry.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.